Welcome everyone to Cisco Canada's Virtual Kitchen. I was going to say, do you guys like those intros? I do. That's pretty cool.
I'm hungry.
Pretty sure.
Those dancing in Victoria. But anyways, first of all, thanks everyone for tuning in today. We got a great show lined up here with Margot and from Technomic. So Margot Swindall from Director of Business Development at Technomic. So welcome, Margot, today.
Thanks, Jay.
Awesome. So, and then also, big surprise, everyone. We have Angelo Lambernutis from Cisco Canada joining us as well. And Angelo's got like a stacked load of questions loaded, ready to go. And we're
questions.
Are you gonna have a lot of questions? He's the smart one on the show.
Oh yeah, wow.
Cisco side, not from the Technomic side, from the Cisco side. Anyways, I'm gonna let them take over and really. Margot's got some amazing slides here. She's gonna share with everyone today. So tune in, watch this. It's really going to give you some great insights into what really is happening within the industry, but also what the future is looking like. And I've got my own questions here, but I'm super excited, Margot, today for you to share, and fresh back from the NRA show too.
Oh, as fresh as I can be after 4 days of exciting networking, absorbing innovations, meeting people. It was so much fun.
That's awesome. So I'm going to pull up your slides here.
Okay.
And we'll get right into it. There we go.
Fantastic. So I just thought I'd introduce Technomic for any of the viewers that may not be familiar with us. We've been in business and around for over 50 years, tracking the industry, first in the US, then Canada, and now we're in 23 countries around the globe, in addition to Canada and the US. And we are the completely dedicated in food away from home space. In terms of understanding consumers, the industry, menus. We really take a 360 view of the industry. We're in it every day with all members of the industry and working with a variety of partners like Cisco Canada.
So is that the hint to move the slide?
Yeah.
Subtle hint, Jay.
Yeah, we don't have to be so professional.
QJ, go.
Okay, there you go.
So one of the things I know Angelo and Jay, you were asking a little bit about is what's happening with inflation on menus. And when we look at inflation, it's critical on so many fronts, from overall CPI and how much money consumers have in their pocket from a disposable income perspective. And in fact, somebody asked me this question. Typically, the price of gas, so what it costs to put gas in your tank and go to work or go around or travel, is inversely proportional to food service sales. So when the price of gas goes up, food service sales go down. Well, the price of gas is going up, but guess what? So is the price of food. It's a hot topic, and it's not just food at home, it's food away from home. This is a 10-year chart. So if we followed that blue line, we're looking at increases month over month in retail grocery. So this is Canadian, and this is retail grocery prices. So what we like to see typically from a food service perspective, and you'll see we're hitting the fifth wave now where retail grocery prices are accelerating faster than food away from home. And when that happens, the value equation between dining out or making something at home for food service, it improves slightly. Conversely, those areas where you see the red line is growing faster. And then for the most part, if we look at food service, operators have been taking menu prices somewhere between 2 to 3% a year. You'll see in 2018 and 2019, when minimum wage was being mandated across the country, for the first time in history, we were starting to see menu increases of about 4.5% to cover that wage piece. And now, based on the latest data from StatsCan, we see that last month it was 5.7% in March, and April it rose 6.6%. So operators are catching up to their costs. First quarter is a popular time to take menu price, and it's very expensive now for Canadians to eat, whether at home or away from home.
And one of the things we were talking about just before we started here was that I was in the field talking with some customers, and this is probably one outside of staffing, planning for food inflation and how do they plan for it. And I know you're down at the NRA show, and I'd love to get kind of your feedback on what some of our American friends are saying. And I know there's a Canadian contingent of customers down there as well, but how are they dealing with the pops and food inflation, and how are they going to manage it over the next year?
Yeah. Great question. I can't say that there's a single answer here, and it's probably no different than what our Canadian operators are doing right now. But nobody really knows exactly how long this is going to go on for. But we know it's not going to be a 1 quarter, maybe even a 2 quarter. So when we did our menu forecasting and our pricing and our industry growth for 2022, Technomic actually planned for a 5.5% over the course of the year menu inflation, which was the highest we had ever planned for in Canada. And for the first 3 months of the year, we were right in line with that. But then the war in Ukraine hit, and a number of other factors have come to play. So operators are doing a couple of things, and also, and I should say before I tell you what they're doing, we are seeing, and if we look ahead, the U.S. has hit over 10% menu inflation, and they're considered to be a little further ahead of Canada in terms of opening up after the pandemic. So those prices are going up pretty hard and fast in the US. So operators are saying they don't want to lose their loyal customer base, but to keep the doors open, they have to take pricing. A number of operators are taking pricing, sticking more to QR menus to be nimble with it. Some of them have pared down their menus as much as they want to pare them down at this point, and they're going to be launching LTOs that are high profit margin options so that they can try to put some more profitability back into their establishments. We've heard about portion sizing, and of course at the NRA show, just like at the Restaurants Canada show, tech showed up in a very big way. Very, very big way. So tech from back of house, POS systems, ordering systems, and knowing that takes an investment, to front of the house or back of the house automation. We saw a lot of robots at work doing different things, but those are more longer term solutions to the labor crisis. The short term, right now, operators are just trying to get the labor in the house they need to serve the clients that are coming through the door.
Yeah, it's quite interesting that labor component as we get into some of the seasonal business that's going to kick up here. That inflation is just, our operators just scratching their heads going, I don't know what to expect. I really don't know what to expect.
Well, Angela, we're still tracking in Canada from a food service employment perspective. We're still tracking about 15 to 17% below normal or historical pre-pandemic levels for restaurant and food service employment. So, that's a big gap to close when our restaurants are looking to getting into a reopening space. How do they do it without 15% of the staff that they've had in the past? So, certainly you or Jay might be able to comment on this as well. Operationally, I think a number of operators are trying to look to see what tasks can they eliminate, what things can they make self-serve for the guest to try to make the staff that they have on site more effective.
Yeah, I was in 4 locations yesterday, and I kind of observed some of that stuff that you're talking about in regards to how do they run their business with the resources that they have. And, if it's a reduction of hours here and there, or just, I don't have a hostess or a host at the front, and it's, go seat yourself, the QR menu on the table where you scan, and even one restaurant yesterday, you actually ordered from your phone, which I thought was interesting too. So operators are being nimble because they have to be. They're kind of forced into it. It's quite interesting to see.
Jay, there we go.
That was my cue. Sorry.
That's your cue.
Wake up, Jay.
It's great.
It's interesting. We get this question a lot around our operators taking items off their menu because of the pandemic. And certainly you can see what happened. In fact, it was really interesting. Operators' business was growing very well. We saw an uptick in the first quarter of 2020, just before the pandemic was officially out. But if you look at the line from 2017 to 2020, we have seen a systematic decrease in maybe scaling back, taking out some complexity, focusing on different menu items, on core restaurant menus anyway. This was already happening, and then the pandemic accelerated it. And then again, thinking that we were going to open up again, restaurant operators started to add more items back onto the menu before the shutdown. So the good news is that in the most recent year, it seems that we're flat. So, whether you're a supplier or from a distributor perspective or a complexity, it looks like the paring back of the core menus has really ground to a nice halt at this point. Operators are maybe taking items in and out, switching those out. And that may be, Angela, more to what you were talking about, figuring out with QR codes, they're a little faster to be able to make those shifts to their menu. But net, it looks like core menu items are the same.
That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. So one of the things I know Jay and I were chatting and a lot of interest in, well, what is being added to menus? And because Technomic tracks over 1,000 operator menus every quarter in Canada, we are able to look back and see what by meal part, what are those items, specific items that are being added most frequently. So you'll see here, for example, that within the appetizer category, operators added 406 new items in total, which means obviously some came off. But what are those types of shifts that are happening? And so poutine has been at the top almost quarter after quarter, especially given takeout and delivery. But we're seeing some return to items that could be in limited service, but I'm going to hazard a guess that most of these items you're starting to see being added in the first quarter were in the full service segment as operators were getting ready to reopen April 1. So specialty salads, non-breaded vegetables, non-breaded fish appetizers, putting tartare, whether it's beef or fish on the menu. Charcuterie boards are very popular again to get back out with that need to connect. So those social shareable type appetizers started to grow.
So Margot, I got to jump in here on this.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I don't see on here is plant-based.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, did you say tapas?
No, plant-based products.
Oh, plant-based as an appetizer. Well, you're not going to see plant-based as a, necessarily as a menu item. So it's summarized here. What you will see, what we do see and where we're tracking plant-based would be heavily increasing in the entree and in the beverage section, although I don't think it's added here per se, but those are the two places where we're seeing a lot of it. And of course, you look at that, you saw a specialty appetizer, non-breaded veg, that would be technically a plant-based. The salad appetizer, number 2, number 3, those could be plant-based options. That could be your cauliflower bites, those sorts of things. And these are just summarized by a menu category.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, great question. So when it comes to, and looking here, these are most added entrees, 720 entrees added. Look at number 7 and 8 there. So you see more seafood and then a specialty vegetable dish. So again, no two-legged or four-legged proteins in those entrees. A specialty vegetable dish is how we're seeing it show up, and our team rolls it up here for plant-based. But a couple of big shout outs here. So Take and Bake started significantly for full service restaurant operators during the pandemic. But here we are 2 years after, and we're coming out of it. And you still see that, having a meal coming on premise and taking a pasta dish with you or something else to go is still very popular. It could be pickup or it could be take when you go. One of the fastest growing take and bake items we've seen recently as well has been in the soup space, but that was on the appetizer side. And then lots of those items that are very portable. So lots of pizza, pasta. And then I would say those last items on the list, duck and Arctic char, again, return to fine dining and bringing in some of those highly craveable, very unique items that are going to make it worth your while to go out to a restaurant and try something new.
Margot, do we have any relationship from 2009-8 to what we see here on the menu items? Is there some similar? Because I remember doing a lot of meetings with customers at this time with Angela. Actually, we were seeing a lot of this kind of stuff at that time too. Comfort.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Jay, I didn't look back at 2008, 2009, but it makes a lot of sense, right? When there was money in pockets after the financial crash and full service restaurants, and we were starting to celebrate, especially in Canada ahead of the US, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, the one that surprised me on this list was duck and Arctic char making 9-10, and it's exactly as you said. It's good to see because it is that re-entry in food service into our marketplace that open for summer, if you would, not to steal anyone's words.
And the independent full service restaurants are back.
Yeah.
How about that next slide, Jay?
I got it.
And these two we can move through really quickly. all meal parts are being added, which is really a sign of menu re-engineering happening. So most added desserts. And one of the things that I like about this, we would always see things like pies and cakes and ice cream at the very top of the list pre-pandemic. What you're seeing now are specialty cakes, specialty cheesecakes, tarts and tartlets. So operators are really upping their game in the dessert space after probably losing some of that add-on, the dessert add-on through the course of the pandemic. So again, these are going to be highly craveable specialty items, things you can't necessarily get at your grocery store to entice that average check to grow and to maybe perhaps considering a little bit more of the celebratory nature of dining out, especially in that full service space.
This is good news. This is good news because in 2009, I'm sorry I'm bringing back 2009, but we saw this category and appetizers take quite a bit of a beating.
Yeah,
People were
for sure.
buying them, right?
Yeah.
Jay loves living in the past.
I'm going to turn my camera on and give you that, buddy.
Yeah, and the only thing of note here, I think, is that we're back to, this is where we were before the pandemic. So non-alcoholic, low alc restaurant, original mocktail. So really highly profitable, high margin, creative, custom curated cocktails and beverages being added. Full service restaurants to be able to drive the average check up, whether you're having an adult beverage or not, cocktail, to make everybody in the dining party feel like they're having that wonderful occasion and that experience. And so here we were again in this first quarter, seeing that was the number one added item.
This is what we saw at the Restaurants Canada show too recently, is just a ton of non-alcoholic beverages. It was huge.
Yeah, it was massive at the show.
Yeah. Overall, we saw alcoholic beverages decrease a little bit in some categories and grow in others. So the low alc, non-alc availability and the quality of what's available is really exciting now for both operators' profit margin, but also for our consumers. It is definitely a growing demand.
So, Margot, I'm going to ask this question because I recently seen some of this on LinkedIn recently, is the cannabis infusion into the beverage area. Are we going to see that grow more and more?
We had predicted that before. I think it's slowed down a little bit. There's a lot of existing ready to drink products that are out there and launches that have sort of start, stop. It's a tricky thing to do with beverages because of the taste and the flavor profile. So I'm not sure that operators coming out of the pandemic are going to throw all their energy behind that, but it is absolutely going to be back as a trend. Probably more we'll see in 2023.
So one thing Jay and I were talking about before as well was ghost kitchens, and I'd say a year ago I couldn't get through a day without someone having a question around ghost kitchens and them popping up all over the place. And it's gotten relatively silent, I would say, in the last 3-4 months. I'm just curious, being down at the NRA show, is there a lot of talk about, is that movement moving forward, or is it just kind of stalled where it is? I'm curious to know what you heard down there.
Yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time in the ghost kitchen space. I think it has slowed down and stalled a little bit, but you've got major players like Reef that have moved beyond North America and are announcing some pretty exciting global expansion, especially for the chain operator space. So, ghost kitchens for independents, I'm not so sure. I know that lots of hotels are sitting there with empty kitchens and they're sort of want to do a temporary situation. There's just a lot of questions. Operationally, it is more difficult than many imagine. And as we're figuring out that labor component, those ghost kitchen operators are also fighting to get staff as well. So not easy to operate them, but yeah, no, they're not going away totally, but definitely the movement towards them has slowed ever so slightly.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go, Angelo. He's ghost kitchens all night. So we're going to break for a quick commercial and come back with Margot and Angelo. And right after these quick messages, be right back. Here, this is how we do commercials, Angelo, on our show, just so you know. Here we go.
Looking for staff training? Food cost advantages? Interested in robotics for your business? Cisco Advantage features best-in-class companies to make sure you have the right tools to optimize your business and increase traffic. We have negotiated exclusive Cisco discounts with business partners to help you compete, stay in the game, and focus on what you do best. Our collection of offerings includes specialized services, technology, tools, and personalized consultations designed to make you more efficient, increase your profits, and make it easier for you to manage your operations. Visit cisco.ca or speak with your Cisco representative to learn more.
Hi, everyone. We're back at Cisco's Virtual Kitchen here with Margot from Technomic. Margot, you got some more slides here that I can't wait to get into because it's going to go some, I guess, future looking at what's going to happen here. So
Sure, we can have a peek at that, and also anxious to chat to Angelo a little bit about what's on his mind.
Oh, there's lots on his mind. All right, here we go.
So this is identified from our first quarter. These are some of the fastest growing, so not high volume yet, but these are some of the fastest growing items we're seeing on menus, starting to bubble up by meal part. So one of the trends that Technomic identified for 2022 had to do with butters and brown butters and different types of butters and nut butters in general, and we see some of that continuing to flow through. There's the cauliflower bites, which would in fact be a plant-based appetizer. And the entrees, really seeing things kick up a notch with sauces and homemade pastas. There's the take and bake soups are still continuing. Upscaling on the dessert front. And then I think we touched on this really ever so briefly, alcohol-free gin, but other low alcohol spirits are also something we're looking at and trending with.
No comment, Angelo. You're supposed to say all this cool stuff.
Well, as a traditionalist, I love seeing vermouth sauce on this list.
Not the mango cheesecakes, eh?
No, not so much. Vermouth sauce, boom. Brown butter, boom. Love it.
This is it. I love this slide. This is a great slide, Margot.
Right. So this is just to wrap things up. This is a historical look at the number of limited time offers that the top 200 Canadian chains have been playing with. And you saw before the pandemic that the number of those were decreasing. And that's because the business was on fire. Operators typically do LTOs for a few different reasons. One is to draw traffic in and from a competitive standpoint and to really wow their guests with unique and craveable items. We saw that they were decreasing before the pandemic. And in the course of the pandemic, a lot of operators thinking we all were thinking we were going to be opening up and this would be a 6-month situation. A lot of LTOs came out in the second and third quarter of 2020. And we really haven't returned to that level. So we saw that there was quite a pullback in 2021 as full service restaurants were closed down. We saw the addition of grocery items being added, and some of those are starting to wane through our full service restaurants. But here we are in 2022. And I would say that the biggest impact to the number that we're forecasting for this year has been in limited service. So full service restaurant operators are holding steady with limited time offers. They're competing now. They have takeout, delivery, curbside pickup. They're competing with the limited service segment for that guest traffic. And they're keeping the pressure on. And it's the limited service restaurants, probably, again, because of staff turnover and complexity. It takes a lot behind the scenes to drive those LTOs at a great frequency. So some of them have pulled back a little bit throughout March and April.
There we go. First of all, that's super insightful, Margot. Now can I ask my questions now?
Go for it.
Do you want to fire some questions here? I'm going to move the camera. Let me get rid of this one.
You can start, Jane, and I'll go after
I got my paper. I'm all ready. So I saw an article that I'm not sure if you wrote, Margot, on Technomic just recently about the personalization. And I was saying this to Angela early. Have we seen the personalization in the Canadian market like we're hearing about it in the United States come up yet? Or is it something that we're going to see move forward through this year? But personalization within the industry, are we going to see this more?
That's a great question. I think it's been trending for some time, right? The ability to add and take things off. One of the biggest areas impacted throughout the course of the pandemic was the fast casual segment as a whole. And a lot of the fast casual segment allows you to order where the guest is interacting with the server and the food, and you can add more guacamole or a little of this sauce, this condiment, that person, make it exactly as you want it. And again, because of labor and fast casual operators not really able to do this pickup or delivery model the same way that quick service and full service restaurants did, it pulled back a little bit. As we reopen, absolutely, it's going to be back in full swing again. Although I think the guests' expectations for personalization have dialed back a little bit just because they're happy to be out.
Now, on that, have we seen the expectations from the consumers and stuff like that overall increase? Like they're looking for more for their value?
That's a great question. So a couple of things are at play here around the value. There's a lot of ways that guests experience value. It can be through the quality of the food, quality of the beverage, the staff experience, the ambiance, the atmosphere, the decor, and a lot of these sensory things that equate to value have been pulled away from our guests for the last couple of years. So getting back to being on premise, values and that perceived value is going to be interesting. Through our Ignite Consumer Tracker over the last 8 quarters, what we have seen is a huge impact to quick service perception of value or affordability for the price paid. So what's happened is, as full service restaurants can do takeout or curbside pickup or delivery, they can have that experience at home. They see perhaps feeding a family through full service as being almost as affordable as feeding a family of 4 through the quick service space. So you're going to see a lot more competition between these two segments starting to have a bit of a rub around value and price perception.
Yeah, and I think we saw, I'm going to say, we saw this back. I'm not going to say the date, but we did see this back. I think it was
2009.
Ironically, maybe, but we did see the burger wars then come in at that time too, right? Remember the burger wars? It was like who could draw the lowest burger price out there in the QSR world. And it's funny you say that because I have a big family, and you make those choices based on where your value is to feed the whole family on that. And that's funny that you say it. That brings back a lot of memory from 2009.
So I have a question for you that kind of dovetails from Jay's question is really around the loyalty component here, and how is the independent operator driving more and more loyalty, and what are you hearing from the operators in the field as far as what they're doing to drive that loyalty to their business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that we've seen record amount of the chains implement loyalty programs, and they're doing exactly what they want to do, which is to fight and encourage their guests to come back time and time again. However, from some of our research and high level, a lot of independents have a place close to their guests' heart in their local communities. And there's a lot of support for those restaurateurs to stay open and to stay loyal and true. And then, of course, across the country, we saw all sorts of regional and really more municipal adjustments to allow operators to build out patios under the street front and on the sidewalks. So there is a lot of loyalty affiliated with the independents. Right now, though, I think it's everybody's being patient and considerate, appreciating what the industry has gone through. I think the bigger question will be, what does loyalty look like going forward as we emerge and we're fully open? So how do we bring those guests back and deliver an experience through food or service or quality or something else, unique products that the guests are going to, reestablish what that loyalty means? Because we saw an awful lot happen with the adaptation of third-party apps. And one thing third-party apps do is offer up a lot more choice for our guests. So, independents have sort of held the fort at this point in time, but it's going to be open season pretty soon.
And I got one more question, Jay. I'm not sure we can jump in there. But this is actually from one of our customers yesterday. They still feel there's a good segment of the population that still is not going out to dine. They're just not comfortable. They're in a space yet where they feel that they're ready to go out and dine. Do you agree with that, or what are you hearing from the field?
Yeah, that's great. Well, we track safety and comfort. We added it during the pandemic, and we're still seeing there's about 20% of the population are in a wait and see mode. So that would be the population that would have historically gone out and do like to frequent restaurants. They are holding back on their visits. You're absolutely right. So when we think about the surge that hit last summer and into the fall, we know there's pent up demand here. But between the safety and, of course, Omicron came out, and now the cost of going out is going to be a real challenge. So even when our guests want to come back out for safety reasons, they're going to be very particular depending on what that experience and the overall value equation is going to be.
Actually, Angela, that was a really good question, right? Because you do see a lot of people.
I get one an hour, Jay. One good question an hour.
I got two, man. So that's good. I got two. Margot, you said two. I'm good for the month.
There we go.
So we're going to wrap up here really quick here. Thanks again, Margot, for being on the show today. So what I do, and I always want to make sure when we have these kind of talks that we leave our industry and our customers here at Cisco with like 3 things they need to be aware of or to do next. What would those things be from your perspective over the next 3 months? What do they need to do? They watch us tonight because they binge watch our shows. What are you telling them right now that they need to be aware of or to start doing over the next 3 months?
Is Angelo going to start?
He doesn't get me. I know he's going to say.
Well, I could start. We had these conversations with our customers yesterday about being prepared to staff as well as you can and recognize that the labor pool is shrinking and loyalty within the labor pool is very challenging as well. And managing your menu and understanding that it's very volatile right now. And supply chain, it's not that it's broken, it's on the mend. And there's some challenges there. So you're really being able to be adaptable in those situations. And the last thing is just be open to that feedback. And our company and your company is the same about helping the industry get better, because we benefit from that as much as our customers do. So just being open to that feedback on an ongoing basis.
That's great. So we track, from a consumer perspective, we track over 64 different attributes about how the guest interacts with our restaurants. And those top 5 attributes and the order of what's most important to the guests has shifted sort of pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and post-pandemic. But I would say 2 of the top 3 have remained consistent in food taste and flavor and overall quality of the food and beverages offered. Those are paramount. So, as difficult as menu engineering is and supply chain management, I would say to be true to understanding where your strengths are and what you can do and deliver well, as much as you are planning for contingencies. But make sure that you have those in sight. And then the other piece is when we think about bringing back traffic and we think about driving up average checks. So right now we are seeing that average checks for those that dine out are holding pretty steady. And of course, menu inflation is going up. However, what we're seeing from a consumer perspective is they don't have as much money in their pocket and they're dialing it back. So they might cut out a visit or 2. And so the importance of innovation and craveability and unique items to your menu. So if they can't get it anywhere else, they're going to come to your restaurant, and make sure that you have a few signature items on your menu that are customer favorites and covet those and nurture those.
So first of all, Margot, thank you so much. You teed me up for this. And I was going to start with it. But guess what? I'm not here. And a lot of our shows, I don't sit here and I talk about Cisco and all this stuff because I think what we do here brings the value in our shows. But I got to mention all those things there are our business resource department at Cisco. We do all those and we do them for free. And we help our customers with menus. We help our customers with staffing, taste, new products. We do all this for our customers. So there's a great plug for our department there, Angelo, at Cisco Canada, and all the things that we do. And we have amazing chefs and talented consultants across this country that can help people with all those things, Margot. So, and we didn't pay you to say that.
No,
we didn't. but we might have to later.
She's going to send you a bill.
You just take me out to lunch, Jay.
There we go.
We've got to support the industry.
Exactly. So thank you so much again, Angelo. Thanks for co-hosting today. I mean, your one great question was awesome. But Margot, thank you so much for this. And to everyone else, guess tomorrow we have Vijay Vikram in the house in the Dragon's Den. He's dropping by tomorrow to support us and celebrate Asian Heritage Month. So that's on tomorrow. Plus, we're doing a foodie. Here's another thing. Watch our Foodie Friday. Sorry, let me say this right. Influencer Friday shows, because we review products live with chefs, and that's tomorrow as well. And I can't remember the product we're doing tomorrow, but we're going to review it with one of our chefs. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Anyways, thanks again, Margot, and to everyone else. Get out there, support this industry, dine out, because we need the dessert sales, the beverage sales, and everything else to add to those bills, right? So thanks so much. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Jay.